Our process is really different from anything that's done in any other video game, actually. And not only from our audition process through the way we rehearse and collaborate, the way we shoot, and the way we work together for an entire year, it's what yields the result that everybody's been praising.
But whose idea was that to change the process?
It was Amy's idea.
Well, it was a collective idea.
Well, a collective idea.
Take the credit.
No,
By collective, we mean Amy.
there are 150 people back at the office right now slaving away.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
But I remember a lunch when she called me because we had worked on some regular video games.
And even those weren't very regular.
But they were done in the style of record the voices and then you animate and you put out the game.
Even then we had people in together, though.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we were getting theatrical already. And then at this lunch, she said, I'm having a thought about maybe you've worked in the theater and this is a game that's like this, and I'm thinking maybe kind of combining the two, and you've also worked for camera video. So that you were pointing in that direction early on.
And the thing is what we're doing isn't that unusual for film or television, but it's really unusual for games. It's the fact that we're telling a character-driven story.
I suppose I should have quit while I was ahead.
That's why actually when we first started putting information and screenshots out about the game, we got a lot of people sort of poo-pooing it and saying, well, why do I want to play a guy in a t-shirt and jeans? Where's the aspirational fantasy in that? And it's like, well, just wait, because that's not the point. You don't have to be the Space Marine. You don't have to be the sword and sorcery guy. I mean, can't we aspire to more than that as creators? We don't have to be sort of lowest common denominator because we're a game.
We had friends and family in town, and I started kind of showing them what I was working on.
Yeah.
But then, somebody picked up the controller and he started playing it, and pretty soon the entire family was sitting around watching him play this video game. And it's like, when does that ever happen? It wasn't because I was in it or whatever. They were legitimately interested in
And we
what was
get that
going on.
over and over and over again. And I think the thing is, part of it's attributable to the genre, part of it's attributable to the quality of the game and the visuals. I mean, it's very beautiful to look at, but I think it's really comes from our process. And some of that was predetermined and saying, well, we're going to do this a certain way. We're going to work for a long time together. We're going to rehearse everything together. We're going to collaborate. We're going to revise together. We're going to improvise together. But that only works because you get the right group of people together to do that. It is difficult to do. It's expensive to do. It's time-consuming to do. And you can only do it if you're in LA, to be honest, to work together like we have for an entire year. And you don't get that in any other project in this industry right now. There's some sort of truism. I don't know what the actual code is about casting being everything. And you said it?
I'm one of the many who say it.
That's where I heard it.
It's totally,
It's
where you live or die.
You totally live or die. I mean, and once you've cast well, you can almost just relax a little bit because people are just gonna take care of it from there. It's gonna coast a little bit. Whereas if you've cast badly, I mean, as I'm sure you all know, it could be an absolute nightmare for a long time.
Well, the audition process really was unusual as far as I know from the
games.
game
Yeah.
standpoint, because they're really more like theater auditions, and we were looking for actors with theater backgrounds and not just voices, and we did thorough screening of people, and they came from all over. And one of the actors was there to help us audition other actors, and had callbacks, and I called her up and said, would you like to come in and read with the callbacks? And she said, sure. So she came back and read with the callbacks, and then we had a conference. I remember sitting in that the Sony building with our executive producer, I guess you know. And he looked at all of the auditions and said, I want her. And we said, which her? The one who's doing the reading with the other actors. And that was Emily Rose.
And that was me. Oh, man. But I auditioned originally and didn't get picked because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So it took me a whole day of watching everyone else and reading across from other people to get the hang of it. So, normally when you come into auditions, you come in and say, hey, how are you? Stand on your mark, and maybe you sit in a chair and you have like kind of this, they're looking for this kind of chemistry or read between the two people. And it's very simple. But they came in and they, put a mic on you and just do whatever you want. And it's like 8:45 in the morning, and I just saw the material, and I'm like, I have no clue what they want. And so when they were like, yeah, we think we're going to go a different direction, I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I don't know.
See, when I went into audition, I read with Nolan. I didn't realize he was and he just kept improvising. He wasn't doing the lines back to me that were on the script. And I was getting so pissed off because he were like going off page, and I'm like, I'm trying to audition and keep to the page. What are you doing?
Well, you had to know what you were getting in for.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
right.
did.
But it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, but sometimes that's the best, read you're gonna get is somebody who's listening is really gonna give you the thing, give you back something that's real.
Yeah.
So it's not just off the page, and you were one of the few people who actually did that. Do you remember? I mean,
was actually the
he actually
test.
played, and it was
That
just.
was the plan, so you
Yeah.
get to see what
Yeah.
happens when you
Because
throw
we would
this.
do the first one as written, and then
Yeah.
kind of just go off, and you were like one of the only people who kind of would laugh and go with it. And Claudia was the same way too.
Yeah, I
This
dropped my
has-
pages, I
This
think.
has to do with
Through
the
them.
fact that acting for mocaps or acting anywhere really has to do more than with reading off the page, and it has to do with that ephemeral word called chemistry. And we were looking for people who had chemistry. The two of them had the two of you. Everybody in this room had something that popped off the screen with the other actor, and that's a lot of what the game was about, and why I think that we're getting some real interesting performances that are happening.
I remember my first audition for the first Uncharted with Emily, and I remember there was that big open space. It looked like a ballet studio, and there was just a chair. And they're like, okay, and you have to get to Elena and jump. And I just remember running and jumping and diving and sliding behind that thing, like thinking I'm going to either make a complete ass of myself, or I'm going to get this.
Or both.
Or both, exactly. And I had no idea what I was in for.
Well,
but
that's what was so challenging about the first audition for
Mm-hmm.
me, because when they asked me to come in and read across from people so that I could, I kind of learn how this whole process went, and I saw people coming in and rolling on the ground and enjoying it and being imaginative, I was like, oh, we're allowed to do that? Cool.
I think that's what's interesting about people that made the connection, because, when you think about mocap, it's just this wild kind of sci-fi type of future technology. You're surrounded by, millions of dollars worth of equipment, but when it really comes down to it, our job as actors is really just to make a connection and do the same thing that we've done in theater or film or TV, and just kind of listen and react and, play the given circumstances of the scene to move the story forward.
One of the other things that I look for and you look for is humor.
Yeah.
Even though it's adventure and action and all that, you've got to have a sense of humor, A, to be doing the right work in the game, and B, to be someone that is fun to be around all day for a long day in a scratchy mocap suit.
Yeah.
I think I heard that. I think my agent said to me, they're really looking at whether you'll be a good fit to work with people, and get along. So for me, it was nice to sort of think in those terms, that my audition was really about Nolan, and that I just needed to go in and play and have fun. And I sort of dropped my pages and just sort of went with it and whatever. But in a sense, I'm not saying I was being manipulative, but I knew that you were the one I needed to work.
That's true. That's true. And she was the only one who auditioned topless, which I thought was brilliant.
Coincidence?
Excuse me, I auditioned for
Maybe,
this.
maybe not.
Amy, when was the first test that we did before the first one was cast?
The very
There was a
first
testing, it was like a year before
Oh,
or
yeah,
something.
Oh,
You
that's
guys
right,
did
because
that,
you were
yeah.
right.
That's
'cause
when
we
we
actually
did-
never even auditioned.
I never had to audition,
It was
yeah,
sort
I
of a
would just
working
remember it.
audition. Yeah.
So technically, you were the first one cast.
It
I was the first one cast, yeah, and Amy told me, she's like, we're not gonna start up for a year, but you got the role, so there was
Whatever
no,
it
the
is,
pressure
yeah.
was off. Yeah, whatever it was.
Were you topless too?
Yeah,
Oh, I
bottomless.
am-
プレイステーション